Hi, my name is Cindy Pierce. I'm the Youth Education Coordinator with the Skagit Conservation District in Mount Vernon. And today we're going to talk about what a watershed is, and this is a miniature version of what I refer to as the Skagit Watershed. There are watersheds all over the world. If you live anywhere on land, you live in a watershed. So if you think about a watershed, think of it like a dog losing its fur. It's shedding that water. That's why I like to ask, where does your water shed? Because everybody's water goes in a different spot. We have many rivers and streams that drain our snow melt and our rainwater, and then goes on down to our Skagit Bay, Padilla Bay, Samish Bay, and all ends up out in the Salish Sea. Our watershed is the second largest watershed in the state of Washington. One big problem that we're having is water pollution. We're getting runoff from all different areas, and it's called non-point source pollution because there isn't just one source of pollution that it's coming from. And we especially notice it when we have heavy rains. We have farmland where the farmers grow us potatoes and corn. We have dairy farmers who raise cows to provide us milk. We have small farms with horses or goats or pigs and things like that, all kinds of different types of farmland that we have here. We also have a different kind of farmer. This is our shellfish growers. They're growing oysters, mussels, clams. The reason why I feel like these are so important is because they filter and they clean water. So you could imagine that as different pollution sources go through, they're cleaning the water and making it actually better. We have farms and we have all these roadway systems to use. We have people who live in the country versus people who live in the cities and towns where the houses tend to be closer together. We have a lot of construction going on, and our mountains where we get to recreate, but also they grow trees to harvest for lumber, for houses, for paper, for things like that. Let's get started with putting some different things on the ground. The farmer in the springtime will till up his soil. He uses his tractor to stir up all that soil and make it nice and fluffy. And of course, then it's really loose, right? And so it can move rather quickly, especially if the rain hits, and it looks like he's already got an issue where his soil is moving. When too much soil gets into the water, well, once it gets stirred up, it turns into mud. And so if you're a salmon trying to find your food source, that's going to be really difficult. And that's what erosion is. It's when you've got bare soil with no roots holding it into place, and it's able to move and erode. So it basically starts crumbling off the earth. This is just one example of what erosion can look like. So here is a really bad erosion area in the mountains where there aren't any trees or plants left. Over here in this drainage ditch, where there aren't any grasses, it's just bare soil, so the soil's going into the water, making it really muddy. And over here at this construction site, they are supposed to put something up around this construction site before they even start. So we're going to put some soil in the ditch and some soil up here in the mountains and our hillsides. What other things do you think that farmers will put on their fields to make the crops grow better? How about fertilizer? Sometimes you might drive by a farm field and smell something that doesn't smell so good. That's cow manure. That's the fertilizer that the farmer's using. So we're going to go ahead and put some over here by the cows as well. I want you to notice there's a cow in the river. You know why he's in there? He's getting a drink of water, I think. That's interesting. All right, so these are our roadways that we use every day. Can you think of anything that can drip out of a car or a truck or even a school bus that could get onto the road and maybe be washed away in a rainstorm that could get into the water. Oil can drip out of cars. And can you imagine if that got into the river and there's our salmon living in there? Also, gasoline could drip out of a car. Speaking of our cars, so this is my friend Holly's beautiful red sports car. We're gonna soap up her car, and she's out there in her driveway that's made out of pavement, so water doesn't soak into the pavement, it runs right off. Ooh, and goes right down that storm drain. It's picking up different things with it, oil, maybe litter. Speaking of litter, sometimes you see garbage floating through the neighborhood, like plastic water bottles, tin cans, paper. I see a lot of plastic bags. Those can get into the water and be really, really bad. In town, we have houses that are fairly close together, and in order to drain the water out of the homes, like flushing the toilet, taking a shower, washing your laundry or your dishes, all that water and that icky sewage goes through pipes and gets treated and cleaned up and go out to a wastewater treatment plant. People out in the country have things called septic systems. It's really important for homeowners to remember that they've got to make sure that they maintain that system and have somebody come out and check it, and if it's got any problems that they need to get it fixed and corrected. Because if that icky wastewater ends up getting in the creek, it's going to cause a lot of bacteria problems, and that's not going to be good. We're really working with people to make sure that we get things corrected, like septic systems and picking up dog poo. Oh, speaking of which, there's my dogs right there. There's Kevin and Dave. Oh, they're going to come over and visit our friend Holly today, and they're going to leave some presents in Holly's yard. Oh no, you guys. Holly's not going to be very happy when she comes home to see that, because she's going to have to pick up their poo. Now, we're going to make a big rainstorm. Where do you suppose all that pollution is going to end up going? Is it just going to stay right where it's at? Well, let's see. We're raining over here on the construction site. Oh, we're raining in the dog poo. It's going down the storm drain right there. The drainage ditch. That water's not going to look very good with all that soil being stirred up in there. Down the mountains, down the rivers where our salmon are laying their eggs. On the oil on the road, the cow manure in the field. And this farmer, remember how he's got the soil erosion problem? Wow. Would you want to go swimming in a lake that had this type of pollution in it? I don't think I would. And we have so many different types of animals here. We're very lucky. We have orca whale, and they're all being affected by all of this pollution. We are, the animals are, and these poor oysters. You know, for those oyster growers, they depend on selling those for food. And if it's too polluted, they can't sell them for food. And if we don't have oysters or clams or mussels anymore, we're going to lose a big part of how our water's getting cleaned up. We're going to talk about the farmland. What do you suppose the farmer could put at the edge of his farm field where it's eroding that would be really natural and helps hold the soil into place? Well, my thoughts would be plants. Preferably grass for this farm. He can grow the grass and actually cut some of it and feed it to his cows. But that grass is going to act as a filter strip, by which I mean it's going to hold the soil into place, and then it's actually going to filter and clean the water through the roots of that grass before it enters the next body of water over here. We got that part of his farm fixed, but he's got a lot of other issues going on here. He needs a manure storage area. We have technicians that will actually help design the storage facility for the amount of animals he has. We have now designed a manure storage lagoon that will actually store that extra manure in until they're ready to use it. Remember how the cows are going in the creek to get drinks of water? That's a no-no. We're going to put up a fence to keep those cows in place, or horses, or whatever you've got. And then we're going to figure out another way to get them water. There's all kinds of different ways that we can get water to those cows without them actually going into the creek to get it themselves. How about the soil erosion over here in this ditch? I think that we should plant something natural to hold that soil into place. So I'm thinking some more grasses or very low shrubs next to this roadway over here would work pretty well. Obviously, we're having soil erosion problems up here in the mountains because we hardly have any trees left up here. So when a logging company, for instance, comes and takes trees down for lumber, they are required to plant more trees after they take those down. Typically, they plant 2 or 3 baby seedlings in place of those big trees that they take down. So we have that renewable resource continuing on and on for generations. So that's how we're going to have this area fixed so we don't have mudslides and things like that. And over here at the construction site, do you know what they're supposed to put up around that construction site? Fencing, but it's a special kind of fencing. It's called construction fencing. You'll see it in all different forms. I've seen black plastic. I've seen the orange plastic that's got the little holes through it. It's to protect that area, to keep the soil in place so it doesn't run down the streets and down into the storm drains. So what about roads? Well, it is really up to us as car owners or these businesses that own trucks and the schools that own buses to make sure they're doing proper maintenance and getting oil leaks fixed or gas leaks fixed or anything like that, so that it doesn't go onto the roads and eventually go into the waterway. And you saw how we washed that car on the pavement. We watched all the oil and the soap go down into the river and the stream. We could actually move that car onto the lawn and wash it on the grass, and then it would absorb and soak in that water. Or you can take it to a car wash where they have to filter and treat the water there. Because as you know, what we do on the outside of our homes, none of that water ever gets treated. Okay, in the neighborhood, we talked about how the water from our inside of our homes go and gets treated at a treatment plant or in a septic tank. But that septic system doesn't take care of anything that we do on the outside of our house, like washing a car or spraying off the side of our house. It doesn't go and get treated that way. So we have to really be careful where that water's going, especially if it's got pollution in it. And we got our dogs, and we saw what they were doing over here in our friend's lawn, right? So when you're taking your dogs for a walk in the park, we suggest that you bring along some doggy poo bags, and you pick up the poo and you bag it up, and don't leave it on the trail. We want you to throw them away in a garbage can. That would be the best thing to do. There's all sorts of ways that you can help, no matter how old you are, to make sure that you're helping to protect the watershed. There are all kinds of things you can do. If you live in an apartment and you have a dog, always clean up after your pet. If you have garbage lying around, make sure you pick it up. If you live on a big property, maybe you have erosion problems, you can plant native trees or grasses, things like that to hold the soil into place. If you have a couple horses, you can make sure that you put in a place to store that manure so it doesn't go into a waterway. You can also volunteer for planting events with different organizations, or putting storm drain markers by storm drains to educate the public not to dump anything down those storm drains, that only rain goes down those storm drains. And that includes washing our cars or the garbage or the dog poo going down. So if we all do our part to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and of course we've got our factories and businesses that have regulations that they are abiding by, as well as a lot of these farmers who also have regulations to abide by. If we can all fit these pieces together, we can have clean water for now and for future generations. If you need further information on technical assistance or outreach programs or any other support, please feel free to give us a call at 360-428-4313, or you can email the Skagit Conservation District at skagitcd@skagitcd.org.